It's a funny thing going on when you watch the news and you hear talk of Iran, where, on the one hand, a lot of the corporate media establishment is cheerleading some kind of action to overthrow Iran and has been for years. On the other hand, it's very convenient to suggest that Trump is going to do something aggressive, something contributing to instability in the world, and then to attack him on those grounds. But the truth is, most of the entire Washington establishment, especially on the GOP and their CIA adjacent IRI side, wants regime change in Iran. So does Likud, and through their proxy AIPAC influences Washington that way. The DNC is split, but if you look at the Democratic National Institute, which is their CIA adjacent arm, they're putting out this grassroots street protest narrative in support of regime change. Now, that's partly a true thing that's happening, and I have a beautiful book by an Iranian about the authenticity of that grassroots movement. But it's also partially false. Mossad and CIA are playing a role there, and whether true or false, its use in the narrative is 100% tactical. And so a large proportion of the DNC adjacent foreign policy establishment is also on board with this, despite the fact that it's convenient to go after Trump as a warmonger. And this is a long-standing thing. What everyone's got to know is that the Shah of Iran's son has been he's been pampered on a Northern Virginia villa for 20 or 30 years. Like he's been given various seats in think tanks and is being paid by the U.S. government and just held in waiting for the day that maybe he can be put on the throne in Iran. But so the thing is, if you understand that whole background, then you can maybe see that maybe what Trump did last year in Iran was a brilliant scissor move on the side of peace. If you recall, Netanyahu was about to kickstart a war. He was doing various things to elicit an attack on U.S. personnel in the Gulf. And at that exact time, the whole military-industrial group in Washington, all of those lobbies, those interventionist Iran hawk lobbies, were leaning on Trump and leaning on the GOP. Remember the things Lindsey Graham was saying? But also Josh Shapiro on the Democrat side. When out of the blue, at this moment, out of the blue, Trump runs this flashy, high-stakes bombing raid against Tehran's nuclear arsenal. We all thought we were going to war. But in this one move, the United States stole the reins from Bibi, outflanked Mossad, and Trump earned this masterful talking point against the regime change club in Washington, where he could say, look at this big thing I did, we're doing things, and interrupt all of the media organizations that were trying to press him to go further. He could use the flashiness of the bombing raid to suck the air out of the room and gain traction rhetorically in every conversation. And all while this was happening, we had a diplomatic back channel with Iran through the Qataris and I think through Oman. And we did this thing where we allowed them to retaliate, but no one was killed. And we mocked them for having such a poor retaliation, and everything stopped. The thing is, and I don't have time to go through example after example, though it seems like this is exactly what just happened in Venezuela. The thing is, Trump sucks the air out of the room with a big, violent gesture, but then backs out and negotiates peace quietly behind the scenes. This leaves the Warhawks, their lobbies, it leaves them out to dry, while at the same time forcing significant concessions from the negotiating party, Iran, Venezuela. And those, you got to understand that those negotiating parties know very well how lucky they are that Trump blocked more aggressive intervention from the establishment flank that wanted to do more, that wanted sustained sanction regimes and CIA ops and all these things that we've done again and again. In other words, just consider that we may fail to appreciate the military-industrial ecosystem that Trump is managing, and because of that, misattribute agency too singularly to the White House, and thereby misinterpret Trump's actual motive and intent.